June 1, 2025. Explosions rocked Russia's most secure airbases, from Arctic Olenia to Siberian Belia, 2,500 miles inside Russia. Not missiles, not NATO, but drones launched secretly from ordinary trucks parked nearby. Ukraine's Operation Spiderweb had begun. Satellite images confirm 13 Russian bombers destroyed, $7 billion in damage, all from drones costing less than a car. But the real shock? These drones weren't flown from Ukraine. They were smuggled deep into Russia over 18 months, hidden in plain sight. One truck stopped just 4 miles from a nuclear bomber base. Russia called it their Pearl Harbor. But this time, the attackers lost 0 pilots. This is how cheap drones changed war forever, and why every military is now scrambling to adapt. Stay with us till the end, and consider subscribing so you never miss the deep dives that history's mainstream leaves out. At 3:17 a.m. on June 1, 2025, Russian soldiers at Belia Air Base in Siberia heard a faint buzzing. Seconds later, explosions tore through hangars holding Tu-95 bombers, the massive planes used to rain missiles on Ukrainian cities. This was the opening move of Operation Spiderweb, Ukraine's audacious drone strike hitting 3 Russian air bases over 2,500 miles inside Russia. But the drones didn't come from Ukraine. They launched secretly from ordinary trucks parked near the bases. For 18 months, Ukrainian spies smuggled drone parts disguised as construction materials across the border. Unknowing truck drivers delivered wooden crates to precise GPS locations, one stop just 4 miles from Siberia's Belia base. At the appointed hour, hidden compartments opened. Dozens of drones rose like mechanical wasps, flying lower than treetops to evade radar. Russian defenses dismissed them as birds. At Olenia Air Base near the Arctic Circle, security cameras captured shadows skimming frozen lakes before slamming into fuel depots. The result? Satellite images confirmed 13 bombers destroyed, each worth $500 million. Ukraine spent just $20,000 per drone. One intercepted Russian radio transmission captured a soldier's panic. They're crawling everywhere. We can't, before the line went dead. But the attack wasn't flawless. At Ukrainka base in Russia's far east, a truck packed with drones exploded prematurely. Flames lit the sky, but no bombers were hit. At Dyagilevo near Moscow, drones missed targets and only burned grass. Still, the damage was historic. $7 billion in losses, forcing Russia to move its remaining bombers to remote Arctic bases. The aftermath revealed Ukraine's genius. No soldiers risked, no fancy missiles used. Just cheap drones built in hidden workshops, precise planning, and Russia's fatal arrogance. As one NATO general admitted, they rewrote the rules of war using parts from eBay. How did Ukraine pull off an attack deep inside Russia? The answer starts with a simple trick: wooden cabins on trucks. For 18 months, Ukrainian spies smuggled drone parts into Russia disguised as construction materials. Unknowing truck drivers delivered these cabins to GPS coordinates near air bases. Then came the call: park your truck here and walk away. Moments later, roofs slid open remotely and drones rose like mechanical wasps. One Russian driver even threw stones at them, shouting, "What are these things?" But it was too late. The Spiderweb attack had begun. The real genius? Ukraine used Russia's own Cold War tech against them. Back in 1989, a Soviet engineer named Colonel Mikhail Petrov warned the Kremlin, drone swarms will dominate future wars. His prototype drone, the Pila, could fly 1,000 kilometers on autopilot. But Soviet generals mocked it as toys for cowards and scrapped the project. Decades later, when a Russian Pila drone crashed in Ukraine in 2014, engineers reverse-engineered its navigation system. Russia invented this tactic, says a NATO analyst, then forgot it. Ukraine didn't. The drones were shockingly simple. Ukrainian-made OSA quadcopters, costing just $20,000 each. But their AI brains were brilliant. Pilots in Ukraine controlled them using ordinary SIM cards, streaming live video over mobile networks. When signals dropped, the drone switched to dead reckoning mode, navigating by internal sensors, invisible to Russian jamming. To train the AI, Ukraine even used old Soviet bombers in a museum as target practice. Like teaching a wasp to sting between armor plates, laughs a Ukrainian engineer. not everything went perfectly. At Ukrainka airbase, a truck packed with drones exploded too early. Flames lit the sky, but no bombers were hit. At Dyagilevo, drones missed targets and only burned grass. Yet at Belia and Olinia, the strikes were devastating. Drones skimmed frozen Arctic lakes, dodging radar by flying lower than telephone poles. One slammed into a Tu-95 bomber's fuel tank, igniting a fireball visible for miles. A Russian pilot's final radio call crackled. "They're crawling everywhere. We can't," before static cut him off. In the end, Ukraine proved a brutal lesson. Arrogance loses wars. Russia shelved drone tech because generals loved heroic pilots. Ukraine embraced it because they had no choice. As a Pentagon advisor admits, they spent pennies to burn billions and rewrote warfare forever. Imagine Russia's top generals scrambling after the Spiderweb strike. Satellite images show something extraordinary. Tu-95 bombers being evacuated from their bases, hauled to remote Arctic airfields. Why? Because Ukraine proved even Russia's heartland wasn't safe. One frustrated Russian commander admitted on state TV, "We're fighting garage inventors with billion-dollar jets." It's humiliation. But here's where it gets wild. NATO started taking notes. Within weeks, Pentagon officials visited Kiev's drone workshops. Why? Because Ukraine's $20,000 drones did what million-dollar missiles couldn't. They struck deep behind enemy lines without risking a single pilot. Suddenly, the U.S. Army announced it would buy Ukrainian-designed drones. Even Germany ditched its expensive drone project to copy Ukraine's cheap swarm tactic. Russia's response? Pure irony. After mocking Ukraine's mosquito drones for years, they launched their own version, the Zhelezniak, Iron Beetle. But there's a problem. Ukrainian engineers joke that Russian copies over-engineered themselves to death. While Ukraine uses simple plastic frames, Russia's drones have titanium parts, costing 10 times more. One crashed in a field near Belgorod. Farmers found it still had price tags from AliExpress. The real game changer? How ordinary people joined the fight. When Ukraine crowdfunded drones, a grandma in Lviv donated her pension to buy one. She named it Swallow, and it later destroyed a Russian tank. This war isn't fought just by soldiers, says a Kiev teacher who builds drone parts after work. It's fought by students, nurses, grandpas, anyone with a soldering iron. So what's next? Ukraine's spy chief tells me they're developing drones that think like wolves, hunting in packs. Meanwhile, Russia's stuffing old Soviet jets with explosives to make kamikaze drones. Two paths, one smart and cheap, the other desperate and expensive. The lesson's clear. In modern war, ingenuity beats brute force every time. And that's why every military on Earth is watching Ukraine's garages, not Moscow's parades. Let's be real. Ukraine's drone strike didn't just damage Russian bases. It shattered an old myth that superpowers are untouchable. Today, Russian bombers hide in Arctic bunkers. NATO races to build mosquito drone swarms. But here's the scary part. This tech is now in everyone's hands. Imagine this. Last month, Sudanese rebels used $500 drones to destroy a $10 million tank. Hamas launched drone swarms from Gaza rooftops. Even cartels in Mexico weaponized delivery drones. It's the AK-47 moment for drones, warns a CIA report. Cheap, simple, and everywhere. But there's a dark twist. Ukraine's ingenuity came from defending homes. What happens when terrorists use the same tactics? Picture a drone swarm hitting a nuclear plant or disabling a city's power grid. No army needed, just angry hackers in a basement. So where's the hope? In smart defense, Israel now uses AI that listens for drone buzzes, shooting them down with lasers. The US tests microwave guns that fry drone electronics. But it's a race against time. For every defense invented, 10 new drone hacks emerge. Here's what keeps generals awake. In World War II, only nations could wage war. Today, a college kid with a 3D printer and ChatGPT could build a killer drone. Ukraine proved it's possible. Now the genie's out of the bottle. But this isn't doom and gloom. It's a wake-up call. As a Ukrainian engineer told me, drones don't start wars. People do. But now, the weak can fight back. That's why this story matters. Not just for soldiers, but for you. Because the next war won't be fought just on battlefields, but in our skies, our networks, our everyday lives. If you want to stay ahead of this revolution, understand where it's heading, hit subscribe right now. We're tracking every twist in this new age of war. One notification could help you see the future before it arrives.